Right, so good evening and welcome to Grumpy's Motorcycles. With us this evening we've got Andy Edwards, local sculptor, very, very talented man. Good evening, Andy.
Thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Andy. It's great to finally meet you.
You too.
After everything that we've been discussing over the past few weeks. So Andy, also you were born in 1964.
Yeah.
At what point in your life did you get into sculpting?
It's kind of a weird one because I was lucky then that I had an encouraging dad. You know, most people, when the parents say, "What do you want to do?"
Yeah.
I said, "I want to be an artist." A pirate originally, but after I
pirate.
realised that wasn't viable,
Yeah.
artist. And my dad picked up the Sentinel. He goes, "Well, there's one here for graphic artists. That's an artist." And I think back, and that's quite unique, isn't it? That somebody would like take you at your word.
Yeah.
Unlike school, who careers teachers, I want to be an artist, they just laugh at you.
Yeah, because normally talents are passed down. So like when your father's like a pottery, you'd be like, "Oh, well, I want you to go into pottery because I've done this all my life."
Well, it's kind of the opposite in that case, because my dad was a pottery worker, but it killed him early.
Yeah.
Working in those conditions, breathing in all that dust.
Yeah.
So it's kind of do anything but don't do this.
Yeah. So
I that's what kind of encouraged me, which is the main thing, isn't it? It's like you can develop skills if you've got the confidence to step into that world.
Yeah. It's even better when you've got the backing of your parents.
Yeah. I was lucky in that regard. Yeah, and I lived at the right time as well, because when I ended up going to college, you were paid to go to university. You got a small grant.
Right.
Rather than having to take on a massive loan, which makes a big difference. Again, it's to do with confidence.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be saddled with the debt. I can actually get into something and make mistakes, which is what art's about. It's about having that time to make a mistake. But sculpture came along. I've always really liked statues. I've always been drawn to statues. And I suppose I was just sick of seeing crap ones. And the example is the first one I did, which was the Stanley Matthews triple statue.
Yeah, and that was back in 2001?
2001, and it came about because Stan died, and the funeral cortege went all around the city, and there was like an outpouring, and it was like such a big deal.
Yeah.
Stan's not here anymore. He went around the ground, and they buried his ashes on the centre spot. And it was like that, and then nothing. And then he's gone.
He's gone, yeah. So is that what motivated you to do the Stanley Matthews one then?
Very much. Just to seeing the crowd and being amongst those crowds and feeling like this can't stop. This can't be a full stop. There has to be something where you keep that memory alive. And that the obvious way to do that is a statue, which is a kind of a stand-in for someone,
Yeah. And
it was me and a couple of the lads who felt the same. And we thought, well, we can't let anybody mess this up. This is one of us. Stan's one of us, and he deserves the very best.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was Keegan at the time said there ought to be 3 statues of Stan, and he meant Blackpool, Stoke, and Wembley.
Right.
But I took him literally on the back of a Marlboro packet, so I was daft enough to smoke back then, and I drew these 3 statues on the back of a fag packet, and that's what it is. Because with 3 statues, you can show his movement, and you can show the length of time he played football from 16-year-old to a 50-year-old.
Yeah.
So that was the first big one, and that kind of got me taken seriously up to a point. It probably wasn't until later on that I got taken more seriously nationally. But it's all that confidence, as I say, and being able to take on something that big. Because there's three big 8-foot statues in bronze.
Yeah, especially off your own back as well. Not being asked, and but you obviously you'd seen something there. You'd seen a niche there, which. Like you say, this needs to be recognised.
Yeah.
It needs to go on for eternity.
I think the 3 of us felt the same thing. We felt something. That this needs to be done right, and only we can do it because only we care enough.
Yeah.
And I've carried that feeling on, and I felt like that about everything I've done since. So, the 3 of us back then, just having nothing but like the will to do it.
Right. So are all the statues made out of the same stuff?
Yeah, I've used the same bronze foundry for 25 years now, Castle Fine Arts in the other side of Oswald Street. And you build up a relationship with these people because working with the foundry is not too far away from working on a pot bank, what we used to around here, in that everybody who's part of the process knows what the person does before what the person does after. If it's a mould maker, a caster, or in the case of bronze, there's somebody who finishes the metalwork. And everybody has respect for each other. And everybody ends up caring about the subject. If the artist, like in the case of me, if I bring something there and I tell everybody who the subject is and this is what I want to do this, I want to do this, then it becomes infectious.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you get a team of people who are all able to say, we did that. And that includes me. So when it's gone through the bronze process, I can say, it's a nice piece that is. And I'm not being vain, because I'm not talking about my bit.
It's a collective.
Exactly. And that's how people in Stoke think about art. Yeah. And I think it's the healthiest way. You know, in like Eastern religions, they say that you should enjoy the job that you do, but not look to enjoy the fruits of that. Because once it's left your hands, it's someone else's.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm lucky enough that I've got a job that I really enjoy doing.
And it shows. It shows in your work. It does show in your work. You also done. Obviously, you mentioned Stanley Matthews. Brian Clough.
Brian Clough, another childhood hero. I mean, dad's before mine. You know, there's a guy who wasn't part of the local football club, and he was on the TV, and you know, he come on the telly. It's like one of us. Because when he spoke, he didn't care, did he?
No, he didn't. No. I still remember to this day watching, was it Grandstand?
Yeah.
And Cloughie being on there, you know, on the telly when they're doing the interviews.
You couldn't wait for him because you knew he was going to say something, didn't you?
Yeah.
And that was like, that was another labour of love, as you'd say, because I got to work with his family. I got to work with both Peter Taylor's kids and Brian's Barbara. Yeah. His wife was still with us, and Nigel and Simon. And Liv,
and I suppose when you're doing these statues, and especially when you just mentioned Brian Taylor and Brian Clough and Peter Taylor, and you got to know his family. Yeah. It then becomes intimate between you and the family, because you become part of that family then, because you're doing something for the family.
It is a massive responsibility, mate.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of stress on your shoulders though at that particular point.
Yeah. In the way you just described, because it's not just like the likeness that's got to work for the family. It's like the context of where the statue's going and how it works. Yeah. I remember when Banksy died, when Gordon Banks died, and the statue he did was surrounded with shirts and flowers. And I can remember Wendy, Banksy's daughter, saying, "I'm so glad this is here, because this is where I can feel close to my dad." Yeah. So, in a sense, you're keeping something alive for that person, and that's what the ancient statues used to do. You know, when the Greeks and so on used to make these statues, they used to put perfumes and gift them food and stuff. Yeah. And it wasn't like witchcraft or anything. It was just because if the sculptor captured enough about that person's essence, you could summon it in your own mind. Yes. You know what I mean, and feel a connection.
And well, you know, that sculpture will appeal to different people in a different way. So it's the same sculpture, but I would see a sculpture that you did in my way. Yeah. Somebody else would see it in their way, and they'd relate to it differently. Yeah. So it relates to everybody in a different way.
I come to understand it this way recently. The writer, Ernest Hemingway, he was a journalist in Paris, and he saw this painting exhibition, Cézanne, and he saw the way that the painter broke the landscape up into little details and presented them. And Hemingway took that on his writing, so he'd strip it down, and if he was writing a scene, he'd have so many details that were made people familiar. He called it the iceberg technique. Yeah. Because when people related to those details, they filled in the rest with their own emotion, because that little detail reminded them of something and put them in that space.
Exactly. The Brian Clough and the Peter Taylor one, that was done in 2010, am I correct?
Yeah, it was Derby County's 150th year. Yeah. It's quite a grand piece, that was, thinking back. You know, it's on a great big plinth, and it's in its own plaza, because they recognised that people would treat it as a meeting place, which is another function of statues. I'll meet you by the Cloughie statue.
That's it, yeah. And is that statue still there to this day?
It's still there. It probably looks nicer now than it did, because bronze takes on a patina. You know, it kind of. We tried to do it white to make them look like, you know, Roman generals kind of thing, make it look grand on top of a big cylindrical column. And it's just settling now, and it's like a lovely pale grey green, and it looks like it belongs there.
Right. Moving on to 2021, we'll come back to 2015 because I think that needs to be referenced a little bit more. So moving on to 2021, you've also done the Bee Gees statue.
Yeah.
Bob Marley.
Yeah.
And probably the most, apart from Lemmy, probably one of the most iconic people in the sports industry, Sir Alex Ferguson.
That was a massive privilege. I didn't know what that was going to be like at all, because Aberdeen Football Club asked me out of the blue if I'd do this piece of Sir Alex. And one of the first things that happened was I got to meet him at his son's house.
Right.
Which wasn't too far away from where I was working in Chesterton. And I took a portfolio, and just to show him what I'd done. And he turned the pages, and he got a comment about every single piece. Oh, Jimmy Cyril, I remember Jimmy, him and Dave Mackay, terrible on the drink they were, terrible. And he's full of stories. And after a while, I watched a documentary that his son made about his father working on the shipyards, because Alex Ferguson was a toolmaker's apprentice's shop steward. And when he came to visit the workshop as well, and when they were welding, went straight to the young lads, started talking about their job, what they're doing, get your hair cut, all that kind of stuff. And it didn't take long to realise why he got so much out of the players that he did, because within seconds you'd do anything for him. Just one of those men.
One of them guys, yeah.
You just run through walls.
So on the Sir Alex one, on the statue, where did you get the image from? Was it off a photograph, or was it?
It had to be when Aberdeen won the Scottish title. It was at Easter Road against Hibs. And everybody was on the pitch. And he got his hands up in the air. And he got the Italian FA tie he'd worn all season. He said he wore the same underpants every Saturday, he told me as well. Those omens and those look things.
Yeah. And there always is in sports.
Absolutely. And it's just that look of joy on his face. When the first big title that he won with Aberdeen. And everybody's hugging him and everybody's hugging each other. And it's like, it's a moment of joy, and to try and capture that, that's what I was after. I don't know how close I've got, but the statue's always got people around it. We actually unveiled it on the pitch, and then we moved it the following day
to its
proper resting place. And Sir Alex came along and former players and stuff, and it felt very, very personal, that one. It felt very personal. And, when you're in the presence of somebody who is an actual great. I met Brian Clough as well, and he's the same.
Yeah.
These aren't men, these are something else.
Yeah, they're legends, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're legends. So, going back to 2015, this is probably one of the most important years for yourself.
Yeah.
The Beatles statue, which is, I presume, I believe it's in the Pierhead in Liverpool.
Yeah, what was then a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the waterfront. And I think we decided early that's where we were cheeky. We said we want it there because we knew that when visitors came and took photographs, you got the two brands together. You got the Beatles, you got the Lifer building. Everybody knows where they are.
Yeah.
And it worked perfectly. And we had fantastic support of not only the City Council in Liverpool but the Cavern Club, who actually sponsored it, because we didn't have a commissioner for that piece.
Right.
We just decided that the time was right.
Yeah. So did you do the Beatles one off your own back then?
We did. Yeah. This is me and the Castle Fine Arts Foundry.
Yeah.
In fact, it was Chris, the owner, who was walking home, and sick of people saying, "Where's the Beatles statue?" As they get off the cruise ship, says, "There isn't one." I said, "No, come on, where's the Beatles statue?" There isn't one. And he saw this poster outside HMV, the live at the BBC Vol 1, where they're just walking down the street.
Yeah.
It's actually in London, but the image carries that feeling of four lads looking at home. So that's the concept. No guitars, no gimmicks, nothing.
No.
Just four lads in a big open space, looking into the future, what comfortable where they are for the moment. So it's a pretty straightforward brief. I changed the order that they're standing so that in the stage positions, George and Paul showing a mic, John stage left, Ringo sat a little bit back as if he's on the riser. So it's to subtly conjure that feeling of them on stage. But that was a big deal because the times we were living in then really did need something to pull them out of like a kind of a negative times. And the 60s and the Beatles were dead and buried in Liverpool then. It wasn't that long before that the docks were piled high with rusty chains and the city was on its arse.
Yeah.
And you go there now and there's always people there. It's the most popular statue in the UK, the most visited.
Right.
And no matter what time, day or night, there's always
people there. Yeah.
So it's become like a ritual site.
Yeah, and I suppose the feelings when you just mentioned that you felt that the time was right to do that.
We all did, yeah.
I suppose that feeling that you had then goes back to the Stanley Matthews one, where it was like, we need something to carry this on. You felt that this is the right time to do this. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd been a Beatles fan since I got handed a big pile of 45s from an older cousin and a dance set to stack them up on. And I remember I got trusted with some loose change to go to the jumble sale up the shops. And I came back with this plastic Beatles guitar, and it got these signatures on it.
Oh, yeah.
I showed it to Mum and Dad. John, Paul, George, Ringo. It was like a prayer. It was like something, like a holy object.
Yeah, it's like the Holy Grail to you.
Yeah. So that stuck with me, and massive Beatles fan all my life. So to do that, it was that feeling of like, it's better that I do it than somebody who's going to mess it up by not caring enough.
Yeah.
And I felt like I lived with the Beatles for 6 months, bought all the clothes, studied the shoes, met members of the family, studied them, had music on and earphones the whole time, properly immersed myself. Chris from the family says, going to your workshop was like a teenager's bedroom, some posters and stuff.
Beatles everywhere, yeah.
And you do go down that rabbit hole, because it's something to do with, like, if you want to get arty, you've got two sides of your brain, and one of them, the left side, does all the logical list making, and the right side is what deals with the bigger issues, the imagination. And that. So if I'm occupied in my imagination listening to music, the left side's working away, and all of a sudden I've sculpted an arm. Can't remember doing this.
Yeah.
And you get that, what's it called? Flow?
Yeah, you get immersed into your work.
Yeah, totally.
So going on that note, you getting immersed into your work, obviously you've got those feelings of joy, excitement, you've got a vision of how it's going to turn out. Whether it turns out that way is a different matter, because you might go down a different route halfway through. But you must have had some days where you thought, you know what, I can't do this. With all the stresses and
maybe. I was taught it's like kung fu. You can't say I wasn't ready. You just got to get on with it.
I mean, especially with the Beatles one, because like I say, you did that off your own back, so also there was no financial contribution.
Not at the start, no. At the start, it was just me and the foundry, and then the Cavan saw the vision of it. We made a scale model version of it, about 18 inches tall.
Right.
Photographed it from low down on the ground, looking back.
So, yeah.
And people saw that projected on the screen and said, "Where's that? Does that exist? Where's that?" And Bill and Dave, who were in the Cavan at the time, said, "We'll sponsor that. We get you."
Yeah. So again, you building up a relationship with the Cavan Club, which must have been brilliant for you. You must have been so excited, being a massive Beatles fan, and also all of a sudden you've got the Cavan Club going. We'll give you this.
And the first day they came to the workshop, because I had a workshop within the old Wedgwood factory then, and I got John. I always knew I was going to do John first. I don't know why, and I can't remember a second of sculpting John. It kind of just appeared. Just happened. Just went into a zone. It was just there. Then Paul next, and they came round, and they were like in tears. They were like upset at the fact that there's something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it did feel like a proper magical experience.
Well, I suppose you could call yourself you could call yourself a dream maker, because people are coming to you with a dream, and you're putting that dream into reality.
Well, it's just kind of shining a light on it, I suppose, isn't it? It's you follow the breadcrumbs, don't you? You know where something is, and you're right that you do get a sense of what it is rather than exactly what it is, and it's just mostly a matter of just getting out of the way and letting what wants to happen come through you. It feels like that.
Yeah. So moving on, obviously from the Beatles, was that a pinnacle in your sculpting career? Did that open many doors for you? Did it get you recognised? Did it get you the recognition that you deserve?
It did. It not instantly. You can't. I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting anything really, but it was unveiled without much fuss, if I'm honest. Yeah. It was just a big tarpaulin, take it off, a couple of claps, that's it. And then, you see things occasionally on social media. It's over the last 10 years that it's kind of built and built and built. Yeah. But yeah, it did give people confidence in approaching me to do it. The Bee Gees as a naturally came from there, because the commissioners for that on the Isle of Man I could tell straight away they wanted something that functioned the same way, something that wasn't a statue on a plinth. It was at ground level that people could interact with. And for the Bee Gees, you know, I just thought of the video for Staying Alive when they're walking along that train track.
Walking along that train track, yeah.
And it just happens to work in a similar way.
Yeah.
And that's become like, people say that's your style, and it's not really. It's just that suits that particular subject. Although, when I was asked by Newcastle to do a statue of Queen Elizabeth, they said, "Can we do it in your style? Can we do it on the pavement, like where she's on walkabout meeting people?"
Oh yeah.
And at first I thought, no, you can't do that. But it works. You know, people relate to things. They like looking at the subject in the eye.
Yeah. And that's the most important thing, because if you're like we mentioned earlier on, if you're doing something, then that person is going to relate to that particular piece in a different way than the next person.
Yeah.
You know, and I presume you're going to get that with every piece you do.
Well, part of the joy of that is that, you know, often like in something that's international, like the Beatles statue or the Bee Gees, you'll get people who might not even speak each other's language. You know, you've got people who come from one country and somebody from another country.
Yeah. And
that becomes how they talk to each other.
Yeah, you have a language barrier, but they're all there for one thing.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of what language you're speaking, they're all there for one thing.
That's it.
So you all come together as one. So moving on from the Beatles, and that opening a lot of doors for you, a lot of speculation, a lot of famous people coming to you. Moving on to the Lemmy statue, the one that's been unveiled last month. Firstly, what an amazing piece. When did you first get asked about the Lemmy statue, or is that another one where you thought this is the right time?
No, it was someone else. My friend Mark came, he found me, and he'd had this idea for a Lemmy statue. Lots of people have. I mean, with respect, there's a lot of people have tried to get a Lemmy statue from when he was still with us.
Yeah.
There's been lots of attempts, but maybe the time was right, maybe the people were right this time. Because Mark came to me, and he says, "Will you help me do a Lemmy statue? I've just been to a funeral of my mate and reminded me of Lemmy, got me thinking, you need a statue of Lemmy." Yeah. But as long as it can be like on the back of the Overkill album, that's how I see it. Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Headback guitar.
Right, so that leads me, just interrupting you there, Andy, that leads me to the question that I think that everybody is going to ask with no answers. Where's Lemmy's hat?
2005. Something like that, when he started wearing a hat.
Yeah, and also you just said that you took the inspiration from the back of the Overkill album, 1979.
79,
the second studio album that they did.
That's right, the first one that most people at my age got to hear, heard that one first, like the Stranglers, you heard No More Heroes first.
And at this point, he was still early in his career, and he didn't have the hat. The hat was an iconic symbol.
He was raw, he was swaggering around, his hair was swishing, and that image is not just from the back of the Overkill album, because it wasn't long after he heard that album, I had to go and see him. He played at Vicky Hall, saw him every time they came round, whether it was the Overkill tour, the Bomber tour, Ace of Spades tour, and it was just that presence, wasn't it? He's just like Mr. Rock and Roll, just owned the stage, and that's the image that I didn't see again until we put the parachute over the statue, and the light came up on the morning of the unveiling, and it shone through there, and it was like the flickering light, and I just saw that shadow and silhouette of him move a little bit.
Yeah. So at that point, did you think?
It's the right choice, yeah. Yeah, because you doubt yourself, you know, it's never good enough, especially Lemmy, because like, the Beatles, massive deal, never be as band as big as the Beatles in the whole history if we, started again. But Lemmy's one of us, and he's like a pivotal part of my life.
Yeah.
He changed me as a person. I was a different person after I went to see Motorhead. I had my eyes on other things, anything was possible. And I didn't even find out he was from Stoke until quite a while after. I didn't know. No. And then, of course, when I found out that, I was like, yes.
Yeah, wow.
But,
so at what point, obviously these statues that you make, they must take a mass amount of hours. When did you first start on the Lemmy statue?
I started on a scale model first, as I always do. I always make a model about 18 inches because I make it in wax, and then you can move that around and test it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just try and tweak as much as you can out of a post. Because once you commit to full size, you can't just move a leg by a foot.
No. Have you still got that 18-inch model?
I've got a mould of it, yeah. Well, I did a couple of versions that we ended up scaling up from, because I scaled that up the old-fashioned way. It's this thing called a pantograph, and it's like 2 needles set on like a rack and pinion.
Yeah.
And when you point to the small one, it gives you roughly the position of where whatever you're pointing to is.
Yes. Yeah.
So I used local clay, used a pantograph, painstakingly pointed up. That probably took about 6 weeks or something before I was happy and started refining things.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to like settle on where his eyes should be. Should they be closed? Should they be looking at the chord he's playing on the bass? Because that in itself, you know, it had to be the opening of Overkill. He's playing that. That's what. He's not just playing a random chord.
No.
He's playing that because that's what I remember.
So within the statue, then, so not only are you not have you created something unique for the Stoke-on-Trent for Burslem, you've also put a touch of your personal choice in there as well.
Yeah. Well, it has to be, because you have to go with what you know, don't you? They say that to writers, don't you? It has to be true to something.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes it unique, because it's come from your heart. It's come from your vision, and not the vision what everyone sees Lemmy as with his hat and whatnot. It's come from.
I can remember every part. I can remember what kind of jeans he got on. I can remember his bullet belt. I can remember that he used to just plug the lead in. He didn't. Some guitar players tuck it around the strap. It's just for straight in underneath.
Yeah.
Can remember how many picks he used to have gaffer taped to his mic stand. You know, the angle of the mic he used to sing up into.
Wow. So you've proper studied?
Well, I didn't know. It was already in my head.
Or just taking note?
It was already in my head.
Yeah.
And I didn't look at that back cover of Overkill until after I finished the statue.
Okay.
And after I did, I looked at it and I thought, yeah, that's it. I'm glad he did that.
So who was it that actually came to? Well, obviously you said it was your mate Mark, and he did it. So when obviously we'll speak to Russ in a minute, because obviously Russ took care of all the plans for the unveiling day, which was May 9th.
May the 9th, Russ came along and made a massive contribution, because it was 3 of us that had this vision of what we wanted to do in the square, and we hadn't got a venue for the pre and after party, and then Russ came along with the idea of like a motorcade, and transporting people close to Lemmy.
You got involved. Was it at a late stage?
Yeah,
you got involved.
I was invited to go up to the cafe. I think it's called Cafe the Square or something, up in town. Met everybody, and then they went through things, and I just made comments after that, and then we basically got on board, and then it was just head down, arse up kind of thing.
Yeah.
Running at it to make it a success.
To make it work.
Because no matter what project you're doing, the end date never changes.
No.
And the reason why it was the 9th and not the 8th, because World Motorhead Day is the 8th of May.
Okay.
But the reason why we didn't do it on the 8th is, one, because it was Victory in Europe 80th anniversary on the 8th. And not only that, it had to coincide with LA, because that's where the big things are all driven from. So if we'd have done it on the 8th, it would have been the 7th.
7th across there.
Yeah, so it would have been out of kilter anyway.
Yeah.
So, in a weird way, it dropped correct by doing it on the Friday. Because, and another thing as well, I think if you'd have done it on the 8th, the crowds may not have been there, because I think because people came from pretty much
everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
And them having a day off on a Friday was a lot better than having 2 days off
on a Thursday,
or whatever.
Well, you're right in what you're saying there, because obviously we spoke to various people on the day, and I think one couple were actually from New Zealand, if I remember.
Yeah, we had in here we had Spanish, French, Swiss. There was a couple of Germans, I can't remember where else they came from. Ireland.
Yeah, and they were all speaking same. Well, not the same language.
Yeah,
but they were all on the same page.
They were all here for the same thing.
Yeah.
And we on the back of that, we're building a Lemmy wall, because you've got loads of original things from the 1981 concert. And we've also got donated things from Andy the sculptor.
Yes.
Original things. So we're having 2 windows really inside here. One's going to be at the 1981 concert. The other one will be the actual unveiling, all the memorabilia from the day.
Yes.
So that's all going to be built. And on the back end of that, we're going to do a Lemmy Day once a year.
Right.
So there's mass interest in all sorts of things.
So is that going to be on the 9th of
No,
every
because we haven't confirmed a date yet, because there's already lots of Lemmy or Motorhead things. I think there's one in Blackpool's a whole weekend on the 8th, or as near to.
Yeah.
I think we might do ours in August, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll
keep an eye. We'll keep in touch with you.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on that one for you. So going back to the day. Obviously, the day's on its final approaches. What are your thoughts? Have you got any concerns going on, or?
Well, yeah, because it was all pretty much manic. So it was getting the police involved, the police outriders for the convoy. It was getting 10 individuals on motorcycles with no affiliation to anything, and it was just coordinating all that. On the day the police turned up, they were fine. The lads were here. They were issued a T-shirt for the event.
Yeah.
And then we loaded up the VIPs that were here. Was in touch with the security up there, and then what we did then is, on time, we left and we were escorted up by the police outriders.
Yeah.
And then as we got to the town, obviously you've seen it on everything that was videoed and etc. And we made the, I think the cavalcade, even though the focus was the statue, which is, it's a fabulous thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, everybody I've had people ring me up who I haven't got a clue who they are, and they just say, we've just been to the statue. What a detailed thing it is.
Yeah.
So I think in the next person that does that, I'm going to give him Andy's number.
He's the lad that needs to tell him.
Yeah, talk to him.
Well, to be fair, obviously speaking to Andy, he doesn't see that he's done anything other than what he normally does.
The thing is, with Andy's got the talent. Talent at that level takes a whole lot of hard work.
Yeah.
It's not, I can't be arsed, get out of bed and...
No. And you can see that in the detail.
Yeah. But this particular one that he's done for Lemmy is a very personal one, because he's been deeply into Motorhead for more years than you care to remember, really. So it was a real poignant thing. But we got involved with another one about 6-7 years ago, I think it was, maybe more longer than that. And we did T-shirts and things for that, and nothing ever came with the money. So I stepped away from it then, because there's no traceability to the money. I'm not getting involved in it.
No.
Because what we do here, we do right.
Yeah. Again, speaking to Andy, if it's something's worth doing, it's worth doing right, it's worth doing well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So, because we didn't get any financial clarity, I stepped away from it. And when I went to the CAF to talk to Andy and everybody, I was listening and everything, but you haven't got your guard up, so to speak. But I've been here before, kind of thing.
Apprehensive.
Yeah, you're a bit. I've been here before. Let it play out, see how it goes, and then it was genuine. Mm-hmm. So, and there was actual proper concrete plans in place, a lot of hope, a lot of ambition, and just tiny little footholds.
Yeah.
So they'd actually got a grip of something.
Yeah.
And then I think the cavalcade with the VIPs and the unveiling and the 21 rev salute, I think that added the rock and roll to the day.
Yes, definitely.
And I think that is the thing that made the council ears prick up a little bit.
Yeah.
So the details of what's going on after that is obviously with Andy and the Legacy, and Grumpy's is the official partner of the IFK Legacy.
Yeah.
So we'll be involved in pretty much anything and everything they do from this day onwards.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, it is, but like I say, we do it properly.
Yeah.
So nobody gets... It's planned, there's no issues, and everybody knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And lastly, Russ, from your point of view, obviously your feelings, your emotions on the day, once the statue's been unveiled, everything is done, dusted, your job's done, what feelings have you got from that point?
Well, it's a relief that it's all went to plan, but as soon as we left there, we opened up here for the official party.
So work for you.
So we
just carried on.
Yeah, carried on. Yeah. So then we held the official party. So we had a load of Motorhead original back staff, like guitar techs and stuff like that. We had them in here. We had a band playing. We did an auction of stuff supplied by Motorhead Global Merchandising. So we raised quite a bit for that.
Yeah.
And then I think I got in bed about 2:30 in the morning. So
wow. Was that the same morning or the next morning?
Well, the next morning. So yeah, it was a hectic day, but because we put so much planning into it prior to the day, you hadn't got the last minute hiccups.
No.
So that's why it worked.
No. And what a success it was.
It was brilliant. And to be fair, we've had, well, Grumpy's has had loads of messages off people saying that our involvement with what the rock and roll bit brought pride back to a lot of people within Burslem, and the event itself was it's basically great. It's put Burslem back on the map, and the overriding feeling that I'm understanding from it is they don't want to leave it at that. They want to keep this pressing, so we've got to keep it going for the halls, and not only that, keeping the momentum going of making Burslem somewhere welcoming, and offering people something to come for. I mean, there was just Americans, there was all sorts of people over.
And there are still people going from all over now.
Yeah,
now.
I mean, every time I've been past the statue, there's been at least 2-3 people there.
Yeah.
So many people have ridden motorbikes in front of it. Most motorcycle related Facebook pages have got the statue.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, hopefully it's a kickstart, and I think the council are a little bit on our side now. But it takes doers.
Yeah.
To make things happen.
Yeah, that's it.
You can't just sit back and go, well, that'd be nice if this happened.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got to force it a little bit.
Like you say, you've got to keep on, keep your foot on the gas.
Yeah.
Because on the day we had not just Phil Campbell, but we had Harry Feeney. It was Reverend Black from Reverend Black and the Rocking Vicars.
Yeah.
So you got two people who've been in bands with Lemmy from the beginning and right until the end.
Yeah.
And they came with the dignitaries in Russ's pickup with all the motorbikes, and Russ organised that. And we ended the night here in Grumpy's. I think I was one of the last ones standing. I don't know what time it was.
Standing, sleeping.
No, I was standing because the band that we had on, Motorhead, they saved Overkill till last.
Right.
That was the last song they played. And I don't think they've ever had such a fervent audience.
No.
Because people were already, high on Lemmy throughout the whole day.
Throughout the whole day. Oh yeah, we were there.
Yeah.
We were there from the word go from 11 a.m. we were there. So we saw it unfold like you did.
You could tell it was really emotional to them.
Yeah. And
they recreated something in that moment.
Yeah. So along your journey creating the Lemmy statue, were there any times where either you or Mark or Russ had come to you and go, do you know what, this is too big for us, we can't do this, I can't do it, I'm throwing the towel in?
There were moments where there seemed to be obstacles that we weren't able to overcome, whether it was a planning requirement, whether it was a timing issue. But when you work as a team, there's always somebody in the room who's got the answer. And when you do feel like giving up, which I did do, we all did, we all confessed. We didn't say it at the time, but there's some mornings you go, I can't do it anymore. Just don't want to do it. And then somebody will say something, and then you go again, because it's your mates. You don't want to let your mates down.
Yeah, but that's the pressures of creating something like that. You know, there must be immense on your shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of got locked into this thing of like, does it look like him from this angle? Does it look like him from that angle?
Yeah.
Because if you get a sculpture to work from every single album, you've done really well. Because even the best in the world, there's a couple of views that are a bit iffy in that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we knew where people would stand, and we knew what the background would be, which is the former Queen's Theatre that we've got plans for in Lemmy's name. And it's the perfect backdrop, and it was on the day. And the mic stand was a thing that I sweat about as well, because you have the mic stand, don't you? And I didn't have it in the scale model, so we never actually saw it big. We didn't actually see it as a clay model. We never offered a mic up to it.
So from your perspective, then the mic stand was a bit of a gamble.
Exactly, and it wasn't until it was in the metalwork and we started welding something together that we thought, it does look better, it makes sense for the mic. But I got this call, had left the foundry, had just got home. We've just finished welding the stainless, and the mic stand was like 30mm stainless bar. It shouldn't go anywhere. So there's a bit of whip in it, it's wobbling around, we're not sure about it, we're not sure. So I said, do you know what? He can't race against his guitar, there's nowhere else it can touch.
No.
You have to weld it to his top lip. You have to weld the microphone to his top lip.
Yeah.
And thinking, no, you should. He said, well, that's how he used to sing. That's how you find the mic, you let it touch your top lip. But you're covering up half his face. So I can't think of another way around. It's got to be that. It's got to be that. Anyway, I got in the foundry the next day, and I saw the mic, the bulb of the mic was just touching under his nose. And I said, I haven't had time to do it yet. And he went, have a look. And I went on the back of his head, and there was 3 welding spots that were covered up, like a bowling ball, 3 dots.
All right.
And I went, one's for the weld, one's for the light, and one's to look through, right? He went, yeah. And what they'd done it from the back of his head through the tip of his nose and put some 4mm stainless bar in and welded it in. So it looks like a magician's illusion.
Yeah.
It looks like it's floating above his nose, but
it's actually welded through his nose.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that's the kind of people we're dealing with. And at the same time, a lad comes up to me and he's got what looks like a piece of gaffer tape with plectrums on it. And it was made of bronze.
Right.
and he'd made that. And he was about to weld that onto the mic stand.
Wow.
It's the final touch.
Yeah, but that business there where they put the weld onto his nose.
Yeah.
Again, that's where you're on about your teamwork.
It's a gamble, isn't it?
They're all on the same page, aren't they? Because
yeah.
it's a case of, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. Let's do this, and it's because they cared about the piece of work.
Exactly, that's it. That's what I'm working with. That's why I love what I do, because I'm with people who care that much and take that gamble with you.
Well, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
So on the day, you've got thousands of people there.
Yeah.
They're all starting to gather around your statue. It's getting closer and closer to unveiling time. Obviously, there was a bit of a delay on the day, but it's getting closer to unveiling time. What are your thoughts? What are your emotions like? Are you nervous? Are you getting excited?
It crept up on me, Dave, because I was there from about 7:30. I was there from 7 o'clock because we had to re-secure the parachute that we were going to away because that was like really heavily taped up so the wind didn't take it off.
Yeah, because the statue arrived the night before.
That's right. Yeah, it took us a full day to install it the day before, and after we'd done that, it was wrapped up and secured. So earlier that morning, I had to get rid of all that mess, move all the house fencing out the way, and there was about a dozen people knocking around the square. I was doing a Radio Stoke interview, and there was like people milling around at like 7:30 in the morning. Yeah. And you kind of sense then that this is going to go a bit mad. Yeah. And so I didn't really notice the crowd building up. It happened throughout the day. A few more people you don't really notice until you're trying to like go, hang on, we need to get people from here to there, And there's like a sea of people.
Sea of people, yeah.
Yeah, sea of love, somebody said.
And it was immense, you know. Like I say, on the run up, you know, half an hour before unveiling.
Yeah.
Half an hour before the scheduled unveiling.
Yeah.
They all started to gather. By the time it was unveiled, I think it was just after 5 p.m. or something like that, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, God, I couldn't tell you.
No, I bet you were in a sea of awe. And then obviously when the parachute cover did come off, you know, what were your feelings then when you see it in all its glory and everyone's cheering and you know,
it was prolonged, wasn't it? Because I kind of knew that parachute was going to stick. The chances of that, we made these big sticks.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but
no, well, it makes it better. It just prolongs that kind of ooh. And it went on for ages. And Alan Hungerford, who'd come in to manage the event from Bloodstock, he just shouted at one of the lads. He says, "Shoulders now!" And Spider gets on, floats him up there. And it's like and the parachute's swirling around like a vortex. And you see these little legs from that disappear into it, and he's rummaging under there, and eventually he comes off. And it was like a piece of art in itself, the performance of getting that off. But that's how it should be, you know. It shouldn't. It's Lemmy, isn't it? You know, you used to say, you know, it'll likely be a disaster. I'm good at those.
Yeah. So did you obviously once you've been unveiled? After all the excitement of the unveiling,
there was the ashes to go in.
Then you got the ashes to go in. And whose idea was it to put the ashes in?
It was Singing Entertainment.
Right.
I can remember the phone call. Said we'd like to bring the last portion of Lemmy's ashes and put them in the plinth.
Oh, they're the last portion then?
Yeah. And when they said that, I couldn't speak. Because, you know, these ashes have gone in bullets and tattoos and in fields and things like that. And because this is his hometown, it kind of feels that it's like his final resting place, isn't it?
So the final ashes are in his final resting place in his hometown.
And when Phil Campbell put them in that little urn, and him and Todd Seaman kissed the little urn and they put it in and everything, and then I've got to seal that in. And there's me and Martin, the stonemason, and we're on this big, heavy kind of motor pig wreath. Yeah. And then we had to spend the next 20 minutes holding it against the wall while the resin went off. Yeah. So I was occupied. I was working all day, really. Yeah.
So you didn't get a chance to revel in the glory of what you created.
What's funny, Dave, is that it's always other people's memories that make it better. So when people said, "Oh, this happened and this happened and this happened," you go, "Go on, yeah. And then what? And then what? And then what?" Yeah. And people showing me little videos on the phone and stuff, which is how, you know, the information travels better that way. Yeah. You've got phones and that now, so you can see it from different perspectives and stuff. And I don't feel like I missed out. I feel like you've seen it through multiple eyes, you know, which you can do these days. And it happened when we did the Statue of Banksy and people were meeting Pele. I didn't really see much of that. And people are saying, "Oh, he stopped and signed an autograph, he gave me this shirt and stuff." Mm-hmm. And it's other people's memories that stick with you more than your own, kind of. Yeah. And that's the biggest blessing of what I do.
So does that give you the most pleasure then, when obviously when other people come to you and go,
100%.
This you know, this happened.
Yeah.
You know, you must stand there and be so proud of yourself. I mean, in every right you need to be.
Well, Todd said about Lemmy that his greatest pleasure was seeing other people enjoy themselves. Maybe that's I've got that in me as well, coming from the same place. Yeah. You know, we look after each other, and it felt on the day like it was a massive family. Yeah. There was never going to be any grief or anything on that day. It's just where I wanted to be, anywhere on earth, any time. I wanted to be there.
Yeah. So was the statue where his final place is now? Was that the original site planned for the statue?
Yeah, we always wanted it in that square. There's a number of reasons. One, because we knew that people would gather in numbers and will continue to gather in numbers. Yeah. So it had to be somewhere that was accessible, people could take it in. And we wanted it with the context of regenerating his hometown. Yeah. And the prize is the former Queen's Theatre that we envisage as being called Kilminster Halls.
Yeah, we'll get to that one in a second.
Okay.
So even now, today, you know, I can guarantee you that there's been people there in Burslem taking photos of the statue every time I drive through Burslem, there's always somebody there taking pictures on the groups, on the Facebook groups. There's always new pictures going up.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, even like you say, even language barriers are not stopping.
Yeah.
You know, the pictures are going up constantly.
No, it's great, isn't it? I mean, I like. There's a couple of things that have started which I like. People park the bikes in front of it and take. It's a backdrop for the picture of their bikes.
Yeah,
I love that one. And then, did you see the one of Slash's uncle that Slash posted?
I've seen that one.
And it's starting to get buskers as well. I really like that.
Yeah.
You know, live music, it's attractive music.
Yeah. There was one the other day I saw where he's done a guitar riff.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I put thin pieces of nickel elastic around it, thinking people would bring flowers and little cards and stuff, but it didn't go that way. Instead, people are like acting out in front of it, aren't they? Like doing little performances.
So what are your future plans then, Andy? Obviously, you know, you've got your Beatles under your belt. You've got Stanley Matthews under your belt. You've got Sir Alex Ferguson. So what's next for yourself?
Well, there's a common strand here. When I finished the Beatles, the first thing I wanted to do was do another Beatles statue.
Okay.
And when I finished the Lemmy statue, I wanted to do a Lemmy statue, another one. So I'm just saying that it's more likely than it's not likely that I'll get that wish.
Yeah.
Well, and I've actually sculpted another Beatles statue.
Right.
For New York.
Right.
Because the one in Liverpool is like the lads leaving the hometown.
Yeah.
So to bookend that, I've sculpted a piece that's them arriving at JFK Airport.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the moment really that changed the world when they landed and played the Ed Sullivan show.
JFK, yeah.
And I've sculpted that, and we're trying to find a site for that. So that's actually sculpted.
Right.
How tall?
I was going to say, how tall does that stand?
It's the same scale as the one in Liverpool. It's slightly different design, and it's rather than they're walking separately apart. This is like whether they're a four-headed beast. They're all bunched up together and they're all waving.
Yes.
Because they can't believe the size of the crowd.
Yeah.
On the tarmac as they got off the plane. So we looked at a possibility. We actually unveiled a small version at JFK Airport last year.
Okay.
And putting that in front of people, the idea comes back that it should be in Manhattan. It needs to be a landmark in Manhattan.
Right.
Because there's the Ed Sullivan Theatre, there's that area all around Broadway and Times Square, where there's not really an adult offer there. You know, you can stand next to a 12-foot Disney character. But I'm starting to believe that might happen. We might be able to put it right in the middle of that kind of Beatles tour zone where you've got Strawberry Fields that's always got people there, near to where John lived. You've got the Plaza Hotel.
Who knows? Hopefully, somebody will see what we're doing here, pick it up, and you know, your dream maker, the dream maker, will turn that into reality for somebody. You mentioned the Queen's Theatre. Presumably, you've got some plans in place for that.
We've got a 100-page document worth of plans for that.
Okay.
Every square inch of that building is the IFK Legacy CIC that we formed. It's like a non-profit community interest company.
Yeah.
And we've proposed our plans to the City Council to help regenerate the city and Burslem by development of the Queen's Theatre into Kilminster Halls is the concept. A 900 plus capacity live venue that the area desperately needs.
Yeah.
We get all the tours of bands we get missed out. They go to Derby, then they go to Manchester or Liverpool.
And that's because we haven't got the facility to accommodate them.
We haven't got it anymore. And what could attract them better to playing there in Lemmy's hometown than if you've got a live venue that's attached to a world-class recording studio that's a model on Abbey Road Studio 2.
Okay.
And also houses a music school right down to a musical instrument library. So there's the opportunity at the very, very grassroots level for people to get into the visual arts, into music, and having that with the inspiration of Lemmy and his statue there to give them that belief that I had when I was young to do something that's, you know, against the grain and not normal.
Yeah.
That's the big dream for me and the people that I hang around with. We enjoy our jobs, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, definitely.
And Lemmy's pleasure was like in providing opportunities for people.
Yeah. So if anyone would like to get involved and contribute and help out with any funding, how would they do that?
Well, ideas are the most valuable thing, and we're always looking for ideas. It's not just about the money, it's about serving people and taking account of those individuals and what they think about. And we've got the forum for that in the form of a new website, which is lemmyforever.uk.
Yeah.
On there, there's pages about Lemmy. There's even a playlist of some of his favourite music. There's a GoFundMe page if people want to make a contribution and help that way. There's an email address on there to take in ideas, to take in photos of things we can share, and updates of what we're achieving. Because it will happen. It will happen. It has to.
I don't doubt it. A man of your calibre, Andy, and like I say, the portfolio that you got behind you, and the determination and the care that you put into your work. I look forward to seeing this happen.
Yeah, me too, mate. Yeah, thanks for that.
And lastly, thank you for your time and giving us an insight into your life of sculpting.
No, I'm a very lucky man.
Very talented.
Well, we've all got a talent, haven't we? And what we're about, the IFK legacy, is letting people find theirs, because it's your right. It's not a privilege, it's your right.
Yeah. So once again, Andy, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Overkill!